Prime Minister Narendra Modi versus the Congress Party on the wealth redistribution, strategy. The Congress Party has once again, attacked the Prime Minister that he's misleading as far as the Congress manifesto is concerned. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has upped the ante. He has retreated his attack on the Congress Party. Now, Prime Minister at a rally today, in fact, while he was campaigning in Madhya Pradesh and UP, he said that the Congress is eyeing your wealth. There is a political slugfest over wealth tax, which the Congress says it has not mentioned in its manifesto.
जब इंदिरा जी नहीं रही और उनके बेटे राजीव गांधी जी को ये प्रॉपर्टी मिलने की थी, लिख करके गई थी, तो अब सरकार को पैसा चला ना जाए, प्रॉपर्टी को बचाना था, तो इन्होंने क्या कर दिया, उस प्रॉपर्टी को बचाने के लिए अपनी माता इंदिरा गांधी से मिले हुए पैसों को बचाने के लिए उस समय के प्रधानमंत्री श्रीमान राजीव गांधी ने अपनी संपत्ति बचाने के लिए पहले जो इनहेरिटेंस कानून था उसको समाप्त किया और खुद के पैसे बचा लिए.
My colleague Vasudha Venugopal joins us with more details on this. Vasudha, it seems that the Prime Minister, with sharp focus in post the first phase, this is something that the BJP and the Prime Minister is reiterating again and again. They do believe that it will give them political dividends.
Of course, Ankit, and this was the Prime Minister speaking in Morena in the Chambal region of Madhya Pradesh, considered one of the poorest and backward regions. And he, in fact, doubled down on his attack against the Congress Party, saying that it was Rajiv Gandhi, as the Prime Minister of the country, who basically, repealed this law that India had. It was inheritance law. This was when his mother, Indira Gandhi, died, and he wanted to preserve and protect his family wealth and, four generations old wealth, and he wanted to protect that. He wanted to preserve that for the family, which is why he sort of revoked an Indian law. And this is what the Prime Minister said today, and said that, the Prime Minister, he himself, Narendra Modi, is going to stand as a wall between the people and the Congress Party. That he said, yesterday he talked about this LIC slogan. He said, ki, marne ke baad bhi. So he said that this party is out there to loot you, and I'm not going to let that happen. And there's another point that he said. He again basically aggressively focused on these charges that he has been making against the Congress Party of appeasement of Muslims. And he said that in the state of Karnataka, several Muslims have been classified as OBC to help them get reservation, and this is something that his party is completely against. So this is the Prime Minister doubling down on this certain rhetoric that was creating divisions that was aimed at, in some ways, strengthening the Congress Party's narrative and reaching out to the poor people of the country, saying that, we are here to provide justice. So this is the Prime Minister's way of, sort of strengthening the BJP's narrative and, of course, talking about his own party's welfare schemes.
Thank you so much for joining us with all those details, Vasudha. Just to understand this better, what is the impact, and for a country like India, the kind of conversation that is going on? And let me go across to my guests, those who are joining me at this moment. Swati Chandrasekhar, spokesperson of the Congress Party, is with us. We have Vineet Goenka, political analyst who supports the Bharatiya Janata Party. Also, Dr. Jayajit Bhattacharya, President, cdep.org, policy specialist and economist, is also with us this evening. Thank you so much to all for joining us on NDTV. Let me start with you, Dr. Jayajit Bhattacharya. India is one of the most inequitable societies. I mean, it is something that has been reported time and again. We have seen various data to support that. In that context, how do you see this wealth redistribution debate? Is it, in fact, being just politically misleading by saying somebody will grab somebody's money and give it to others? And is there a need at all for all these conversations to take place ahead of 2024 elections, when people are talking about inheritance tax and wealth redistribution?
India is certainly a very unequal economy. And there's no doubt that if there is more equality in the economy, there'll be less crimes, more prosperity, and so on and so forth. But having said that, there are ways and means to bring that equality. One of the means is to enable those who are disadvantaged to be able to get an education or get the resources and be able to earn more. The second way is to redistribute wealth by taking away wealth from those who have it to those who don't have it. One of the ways to do it is taxation, and we are in that process. It's not that wealth redistribution is not happening as of now, but happening in a more acceptable manner. What the interpretation of what has been put in one of the political party manifestos is that they would like to have a far more aggressive mechanism for wealth redistribution, which means which is being looked at as wealth redistribution by inheritance taxes, by putting in further taxes, and so on and so forth. That has also been backed up by statements in public by their leaders by comparing what is happening in US, where there is where it was alleged that there is a 55% inheritance tax. So if you are giving your property on after you die to your heirs, they will have to pay 55% as taxes on it, which is obviously one not correct because there are only 6 states in US which has any inheritance tax, and therefore that's what's really causing the consternation and the discussions that we see.
Mr. Goenka, but the Congress challenges the BJP and says that show us in our manifesto where have we spoken about the inheritance tax, where have we said that we will just take the money simply and give it to others. There are ways. The Bharatiya Janata Party has also in past spoken about not only just inheritance tax but taxing the super rich. There are ways to do it. The Congress says that you are misleading people with misinformation.
Ankit ji, Ram Ram to you, Ram Ram to both the co-panelists and all the viewers who are watching me right now. Firoz Bhai's grandson, who is a 50-year-old kid, has been fascinated by the Hollywood movies, especially the character of Robin Hood, stealing the money from the legitimate middle class and the upper caste and also the majority and trying to give it to especially the infiltrators and the second majority of this country. It's a classic case of a kid not understanding the economics, but rather going by advice by his mentor, Sam Pitroda.
But may I ask you, sir, because we are talking about facts, may I ask you, sir, where in the Congress manifesto have they said that?
No, but please refer to all the speeches given by Sonia ji. She refers to Nehruvian economical policies, and will she deny that she does not like the policies of Nehru, who had implemented this tax? This tax was implemented by Nehru. If they deny that, I will accept that.
It was also abolished by Rajiv Gandhi.
Of course, that was agreed to save his own money. See, it's a classic case of a grandson doing away with his grandfather's policy because he wanted to save his money. And now the great-grandson is back into the great-grandfather's shoe, trying to take up the money. See, in the last 10 years, efforts taken to push the business, trade, entrepreneurs, industry, the core of this country, so that there can be an increase in economical activity, there can be ease of doing business. By implementing this, you're threatening those people who have legitimately earned money. It's a class case of somebody who does not understand economics, but he's been mesmerized by the cartoon characters of Robin Hood.
Okay, you made that point, sir. Let me get Swati Chandrasekhar to respond to what you are saying. Swati, the BJP says that this is a fantasy sort of an idea which Mr. Rahul Gandhi has. He's trying to be the modern day Robin Hood. He doesn't understand economics. The fact remains that they are saying that the Congress party and their few of their leaders have positioned themselves or championed themselves or put them in a position where they are now seen as against people, those who are generating wealth.
Ankit, I think BJP has lost all its narratives and trying to create some new news, some new fake ideas every day, some new fake, trying to give a new thing to the country where country is not actually accepting. Let me tell you very clearly, we have a very clear, in detailed manifesto, Nyaya Patra, which is very clearly given out by Congress, especially one of the best manifestos probably which we have produced in the past as well. And we have been clearly mentioned that what we are going to do. This is something which we are very clear about. And coming to the Sam Pitroda's statement, Congress has distanced itself from the statement given by Sam Pitroda, and Sam Pitroda has also clearly mentioned it that he was giving an interview to one of the TV channels, and there was a point of discussion where he mentioned about inheritance tax that is there in the US or which is in practice in Japan and South Korea, and it is the point of discussion to be made in India is what he said, and it has nothing to do with what our views are.
Okay,
This is something
Mr.
very
Okay,
clear.
Mr.
He has
Goenka
also
and
mentioned it.
Mr. Goenka and
who
Ms.
is Robin
Chandrasekhar.
Hood
Hold
here?
on, hold on.
We are
Swati, hold on. I have a question each, one question each for both of you. Let me start with you, Swati. Fine,
Yes,
you were
please.
saying that the BJP is trying to mislead people. There is misconception and misleading information being spread about your manifesto. Then may I then ask you, you do talk about upliftment of various sections. What is the idea that the Congress is propagating? What are the means that the Congress is propagating in their manifesto to do so?
We are talking about creating jobs for women, giving 50% of reservation. We are talking about caste census. We are talking about, equal distribution of wealth for those people who are poor in this country. We are talking about creating jobs. We are talking about, how actually we thrive for a better economy. And something, let me tell you very clearly, if just as the Congress, if we mention that poor should not remain poor, it doesn't mean that we are anti-capitalist ideology. We don't allow people to accumulate wealth.
Okay.
We are here being very clear that if Ambani will remain Ambani, if Adani will remain Adani, poor people will remain poor people. We are talking about upliftment of them. That doesn't mean that we're going to snatch money from these people and give it to them.
Okay.
This is some nonsensical idea that BJP is putting into people's
Okay.
mind. And
All right,
people are
ma'am.
not
You made your
practicing
point.
it.
Mr.
Being very
Goenka,
clear.
I also have a straight question to you, sir. In 2019, Mr. Jayant Sinha, the Minister of State of Finance at that point of time, was seen advocating the inheritance tax that today, of course, the Bharatiya Janata Party is hitting the Congress Party with. We've also seen this whole idea being discussed, debated, and being put forward by Mr. Arun Jaitley as well. If it was fine for your leaders to discuss inheritance tax, it was not about taking people's inheritance and giving it to everybody, how does this become such a bad word when the Congress speaks about it? If even the Congress does speak about it, what is your position on what the BJP leaders had said, sir?
I'll certainly answer your question, but in the meantime, let me first answer Ms. Swati's.
Sir, she has not
allegation.
asked you any question. I have. Please go ahead and answer my question.
I'll do that, but I'll do both the things. In Congress era, they like to have opaque taxation. They like to have Raj of inspectors. They always wanted there should be non-transparent so that they can be benefited. We all know that in earlier decades, they squeezed the middle class, the industrialists. They made wealth at the cost of the nation. And this system has been now streamlined by, minimizing the taxation, minimizing the tax structure, minimizing the involvement of the tax officers. The opacity has been removed. Now, this has brought in something system which is bringing in
Okay.
environment, business, trade. Now, they want to kill this so that they can have their own share of corruption, and which we will not allow them to do that. As far as the discussion goes, where, Mr. Sinha or Mr. Jaitley would have done it, I have not heard it, but I'll certainly read this and come back to you next time whenever there is this. But
Sir,
this
it's
is
an
the
easy
case
way to
of
get out,
Congress.
sir.
Let
It's
me
everywhere.
complete, let me
You
complete.
are an economist. You support the Bharatiya Janata Party. We have seen millions and millions of views on those videos of Mr. Sinha and Mr. Jaitley as well speaking about it. So when on one hand you attack the Congress talking about the inheritance tax, what is your position on what was said by the Bharatiya Janata Party at one point of time, specifically in 2019 itself?
Let me complete. I will go back. If you have said so, okay, there are videos about this. I'll watch that videos. I'll understand from my party and I'll come back to you. But in the meantime,
Okay.
let me on Congress. They cannot divide this society on caste lines, then appeasement, and now in the class. So they are trying to divide this society into class. Those who can inherit, and those who don't have inherit, and they're deliberately trying to.
Let's leave the inheritance debate till the time you go. Mr. Goenka, let's leave the inheritance debate till the time you do go and see what the BJP's position on this was a few years back. We will possibly be in a better position to debate that. But let me understand from you, Dr. Bhattacharya, specifically talking about this inheritance tax and in respect to wealth redistribution. This is somewhat an idea which has been spoken or at least been put forward in public domain by every political party, including the Bharatiya Janata Party. As an economist, what is your view on this whole inheritance tax debate, sir?
Inheritance tax is not just an economic issue, it's also a social issue. Socially, in India, I don't think that's acceptable, but I'll leave it to the wider public and the wider debate to happen and evolve. In terms of, from an economic perspective, please do keep in mind that concentration of capital is not a bad thing. without concentration of capital, one will not be able to have the large industries that is needed to power an economy like India. Now, imagine if, let's say, there's an industry run by, let's say, Birlas, and after one scion dies, the next one gets only 50% of the shares. What is the ability for this entity to be able to then generate more wealth from there onwards? It gets diminished. Even though we keep
No, but
saying...
should there be a threshold? I
Reliance
mean, that is what has also been put forward as an idea, that there should be a threshold. Beyond that, if you have some sort of money, then possibly there should be some inheritance tax that should be put forward. I mean, these are just the ideas that people are talking about, examples that people are giving out.
So let me take a little example from real life. Let's look at what happened in Uganda, where there was a concern that there is high amount of inequality and Indians settled there are having disproportionate amount of wealth, and the Ugandans are being relegated to a second-class citizen. So what they did was they threw away all the Indians and took away their industries, took away their farmlands, took away everything, and said we'll redistribute it to the Ugandans. Now, both the Indians suffered massively, obviously, but the Ugandan economy completely tanked. That obviously is an extreme example. It is important to understand that what is it that we are talking about when we are talking about wealth redistribution.
Right.
Because the word used is redistribution. It's not about wealth generation.
Right.
Again and again, we're using the word redistribution. That means we're taking it from somebody and giving it to somebody else.
Sure.
Now, why will anybody that you're snatching wealth from be happy about it? And on what democratic principles are we doing it? There's mobocracy, where I'm saying that I will decide what I will do with your wealth. It's not that all of us are deciding how we will operate.
Of course,
deciding.
These are ideas which have to be debated in public, and of course the politicians and the leaders, they will then have to come to some sort of a conclusion of how they want to go about uplifting various sections of society. But Mr. Goenka, Prime Minister Narendra Modi also speaks about the fact that the poor needs to be uplifted. There needs to be more and more, in fact, a focus as far as the vulnerable sections of society are concerned. What is the BJP's focus? Let me ask you then. Post 2024 election, if they do come into power, about going forward to try and reduce this inequality that we are seeing at this moment?
Good question, and I would like to thank you for this particular part. If you see the figures of EPFO December 2023, EPFO is paid to an employee only when he joins a formal organization. More than 1 million new subscriptions were done. I repeat, more than 1 million, 10 lakh new job creations, new people got this EPFO registration, and that too into organized sector. Projects like, Mudra loan, projects to enable participation. You recently saw that, women self-help groups were trained on drone operating. So these are the things where we do inclusion and we do, development of the people so that the masses get the benefit of the economy. Infrastructure has reached to every corner of this country. When you build up infrastructure, one, there is a direct employment. Two, opportunities of employment reaches to the masses at their gateway. Number three, the penetration of internet also and penetration of the electricity. The coverage of the electricity of this country has increased, and that has increased not only the trade, the mining, the core businesses, and also businesses which will help poor to have the wealth. Now, as far as the enablement goes, you see the Reskill India, which is reskilling the people. It also talks about participation of marginalized and also the minorities. In case of that, we're talking about economics. The kid, especially the Dynasty kid, it talks about the Hollywood cartoons of redistribution by looting it from the people who have legitimately earned and then giving it to those infiltrators and especially minorities.
Right. Sir, I'm completely out of time. Let me just get 30 seconds in from Swati Chandrasekhar.
has to grow. Swati has to tell that
right, sir. Let's just... all right. You've made your points, Mr. Goenka. Swati Chandrasekhar, while Mr. Goenka, in fact, does put up some data, the data also tells you that at this moment, unemployment is the biggest worry as far as the voters are concerned. Also, unemployment is on the top of the voters' mind at this moment. Going forward, not getting into what the BJP is saying, what is the Congress's plan when it comes to employment? How will you generate employment? Don't tell me that we will generate employment. What is the plan going forward in 2024?
Ankit, I think we need to look back at the history now, because in 90s we were the one who opened the economy. In our UPA 1 and 2 era, we were the one who said equal pay for equal work, and we got the beautiful policy in India.
Yeah, we remember first rights are only of
Mr. Goenka, please don't do that, sir. You've been kind enough to let everybody speak on their turn, so let her complete her point. Thank you.
Yeah, and we did not, come to the polls, and we did not tell that we are going to generate 2 crores job, and today we are left with no jobs. See, we understand in the last 10 years the crisis that BJP has put in, especially this country for, and going forward, we are being very clear. We are going to open, especially government sectors. There's been a lot of, exams that's been pending at the state level, at the national level, where recruitments are not happening because at the end of the day, governments just do not have money, and
Okay.
they are just trying to, come up with fake data.
Right.
And even with respect to public sector or even with respect to private sector, skill
Right.
is one of the most important things that we're going to concentrate on, and
Okay, ma'am.
especially the policies that UPA 1 and 2 has opened up for this country. BJP definitely gave a
It will
fancy
be
names for
it will
but
be
without
the it will be the work
but
of
here
UPA
we
1
have a
and 2
clear
versus
roadmap
10 years
for
of what
next
Prime Minister
20
Narendra Modi
years.
has done, and that is out as far as the people are concerned for them to decide. The 10 years of UPA and the 10 years of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, where have they fared, who has fared better, and how their lives have changed. We leave it to the people. They will have to decide. And of course, tomorrow is going to be one of the phases where people do decide on which side of this debate do they stand on. Thank you so much to all my guests